Hi, everyone. This is Beth Rogan from the Marketing and Communications Department today to welcome you to our Careers in Psychology and Counseling program. Thank you so much for joining us during your lunch hour. We have a great group of folks on today and also wonderful presenters for you. So today I will be acting as your host. We can move to our next slide, please. Um, and what that really means is I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview about William James College and handle the questions for you. But I wanted to share with you who our wonderful presenters are today. That's Dr. Robert Dingman. He's the Associate Professor in our Clinical Psychology Department, has much experience, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself and the programs that he's been involved with at William James College. And Dr. Allison Cherkasky is Associate Professor in our Counseling Department. So once again, Allison has wonderful experiences and expertise, and we'll be talking and giving you an overview about her. Joe Lusch is our Associate Director of Admissions. He's going to be talking about things to think about and tips around applying to graduate school, and more specifically with William James College. And I'm Beth Rogan. So let's move on to our next slide. This is one of my favorite slides because it's a facade of William James College. And, you know, we're all about psychology and behavioral health. That's what we do. That's what our expertise is, as well as an applied methodology and pedagogy, which you'll hear about in a few minutes. We're located in Newton, Massachusetts. We're right off of major highways, about 15 minutes, I say, in non-rush hour traffic to downtown Boston. And if you are from this area, you know it's a fabulous area, the Boston area. It's a medical mecca and a mental health and psychology mecca. But I want to say here that, you know, it's really the culture inside the building. It's the fabulous students, the fabulous professors we have, and all the staff. We just have amazing culture here, and I think you'll get a sense of that as we move forward. But also, this is an invitation to connect with us in other ways, whether that's through other events we have, you know, planning maybe to connect with our admissions staff, maybe sit in a classroom and attend open house or something around those lines. So just keep that in mind. This may be just the beginning of a talk. All right, so we'll move on to our next slide. And here I want to just show you, because we have so many other slides and so much more to talk about, you know, just give you a sense of what's happening in terms of the programs, the academic programs here at William James College. There's a lot more in addition to that, but as you can see, we have our clinical psych doctoral program, our counseling department, where there's a master's in clinical mental health counseling online on campus, and a master's in psychology, organizational leadership psychology. So we have both master's and doctoral programs, as well as we have an undergrad program for BS. It's a BS in Psychology and Human Services. It's really for individuals who are working and want to continue on, and it's in the completion program. So if they have about an associate's degree, they come to us. As well as in school psychology, we offer a MA CAGS degree, and we also have a master's in applied behavior analysis. On campus and through William James College, we have several centers of excellence, many that are doing wonderful work. The Brenner Center, for instance, does testing, the Freeman Center for Child and Family Development, but there's lots of academic work, research, direct services, and so on. So it is a very, very dynamic place here. And our next slide, Joe, please. Our core values, you're going to hear about them as we move through the program today. They're probably one of the most important things that we stand for. They hold us up as an institution, really. Experiential education, you'll hear about that as we move forward. It is really a hallmark for William James College. Our students start, really generally speaking, in most of the programs in the first week in their classes, and then also in their field placement, and there's a seminar that bridges the two. So in most of the programs, that's what does happen, but our work, our pedagogy is around applying what you're learning in the classroom into your field placement and into your clinical or your practicum and internship. And social responsibility is key here at William James College. We look to serve underserved populations and make a difference, meet the need and make a difference. So we have many programs that address the fact that there are underserved populations. We're looking to diversify the workforce, and you'll see that as some of the programs that we have, and our mission as well is to really increase the awareness around the needs for serving underserved populations. And personal growth, you are not a number. If you come to William James College, our practitioner faculty. So I say that with very dearly. They are practitioner faculty. They are out working and doing the work. And also they will know you because our faculty have a 1 to 12 ratio of advising, and you are someone who is known, and with the amount of faculty we have, there are many, many mentors with so much different, a variety of experiences that are able to work with you and mentor you and whatever your interest may be. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. And this is where you can put in questions for us, and please do so, and we'll address them in a few slides as we move forward through the program. So thank you. I already have one question that came in from Caitlin, so thank you. And we also have a PowerPoint that you can download. Generally, we have a PowerPoint. I think it is available in the handout section. Joe, is that true? You can let us know if that's available in the handout section.
Yes,
Today.
the PowerPoint has been uploaded to the presentation. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So you can download that and have the slides if you'd like. And now we'll move on to our next slide. Today is an audience poll. This is really helpful for us to be able to know who you are as an audience. Can you please share with us what you're up to right now? So are you an undergrad student, a grad student, you're working full time, or you are working in a student? So please just check the one that most applies to you, and we'll share that out. And our next slide will be one in which I will introduce our speakers today, or they'll be coming on to really introduce themselves. And I'm really thrilled to have them today to be able to talk about so many various pathways in careers in psychology and behavioral health. There's so many options, and you know, just looking at, hopefully this will inform you a little bit more about what your interests might be, what your strengths and your talents are, and what would be a good fit for you. So 38% of you are undergraduate students. That's awesome. I work with a lot of undergraduate students, so I'm glad to see that. And then 7% graduate students, great. And you're working full time, 40%. Wow, that is interesting, and it's really good to know. And you're working in a student, 5%, or 10% are other, in other categories. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really helpful. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce both Dr. Ali Cherkasky and Dr. Robert Dingman.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Dr. Ali Cherkasky, and I want to extend a warm welcome. I'm thrilled that you're taking time today to hear a little bit about careers in mental health in William James College. I've been in the counseling and behavioral health department. This is my 15th year, and I'm also director of the health and behavioral medicine program. So I'll give you just a moment or two about my career background. I was always interested in the mind-body connection. So I did my PhD in clinical psychology, specialized in health psychology. Pardon me, I'm a little bit hoarse today. And I did my training in the VA Health Center administration, and specialized in primary care. Went on to do my postdoctoral training in behavioral medicine, which is just a subset in psychology that focuses on working with people with chronic and acute medical conditions, also a myriad of mental health conditions, working around disease prevention and health promotion. I went on to develop some expertise in eating disorders and weight issues. And in my career, I've worked in hospital settings. I was the clinical director of an eating disorder program. I've done private practice work, group practice work. and worked in a medical specialty unit. And as I mentioned, I've been here for 15 years and love working here. And I'm going to hand over the baton to my dear colleague and friend, Dr. Bob Dingman.
Thank you, Allie. Welcome, everybody. Like Allie, I'm very happy that you could join us today. And I think you're making an excellent inquiry here, because now is a really great time to get into the field of psychology and counseling, mental health broadly speaking. Like Allie, I'm a long-term faculty member. I first arrived at William James College in 2002. For probably the first 10 years of my association with the college, I worked on a part-time basis. I was very busy doing many other things, including directing both inpatient and outpatient facilities here in the Boston area. My clinical expertise is with children and families, so the training programs and clinical programs that I directed were all in that field. I've done a tremendous amount of supervision and training of students, both in the field but also in the classroom now. Starting in 2011, I came on board full-time at William James College and have been here ever since, although I've continued to do private practice work. In addition to my interest in children and families, I also teach courses in the history of psychology. I'm very interested in particular about our namesake, William James. And I also have done a great deal of work in the college helping to develop our military and veteran psychology program. So Joe, I think that's enough. Beth, I think that's enough about me for right now.
Okay, great. So I want to talk about, there are so many different paths to a career in applied psychology. So I'm going to talk about some examples. Next slide, please. So here you can see, this is just a sampling in terms of working in the field. So you can work with military and veterans. You can work with really anywhere across a lifespan. So you can work with small kids, adolescents, children's adolescents, families, adults, and older adults. You can work in correctional facilities, in school settings, in residentials, in hospital settings, really across every level of care. So that can span from outpatient in private practice, in a community mental health center, to in what we call an intensive outpatient program, which is usually 3 days a week for a couple hours, to partial hospitalization, to inpatient, just a myriad of settings and populations. Next slide, please. So I actually think I touched upon this here, so I won't be redundant. So if we could go to the next slide as well. Thank you. Okay. So with a bachelor's of arts or a bachelor of science, there are many things that you can do and may likely be doing right now. And then after this, we're going to talk about what you can do with an advanced degree, whether that's a master's or a doctoral degree. So at a BA or a BS level, you can be doing case management, so helping people access resources, either in the medical or mental health field. You can be working typically under someone in the area of career counseling or rehabilitation. You could be working under psychologist or psychiatrist as what's called a psychiatric technician. A lot of people do research before going on to graduate school, so that's another option. And then working in the social services, often as a frontline person, so sometimes a mental health aide at an inpatient unit or a nursing home or a residential treatment home. So those are all opportunities with a bachelor's degree. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to take an audience poll, and if you could tell us a little bit about what specific area of psychology or counseling are you most interested in, And here are some subcategories, and these are departments that we actually offer here at William James as well. So clinical psychology, school psychology, mental health counseling, org leadership psychology, and we'll be talking a little bit about each of these departments momentarily. And if you don't know, that's okay too. You can specify other or unknown. Okay, any feedback from our audience? So it looks like they're still coming in, so thank you. All right, terrific. So it looks like about half of you, a little over half, are interested in clinical psychology, which is our flagship program. That's the doctoral program, a doctorate of psychology. School psych, we have 5%, mental health counseling, a little over 20%, organization leadership, 14%, and other unknown, 7%. Terrific. Next slide, please. Okay, so next slide again. Wonderful. So I just want to talk briefly about various levels of training, because this can be confusing. So a master's degree, we say a terminal degree, which means, you go to that level, you have your degree, you become a licensed counselor. In the state of Massachusetts, it's a licensed mental health counselor, so an LMHC. Other states, there's different terms. You can also become a marriage and family therapist, okay? You need a specialist degree to be licensed as a school psychologist, and you need a doctoral degree to call yourself a psychologist. The only caveat there is with a master's, you can call yourself a school psychologist, but school has to come before, but all other in all other times to call yourself a psychologist, you do have to have a doctoral degree. So factors that you want to consider is that your education, it's an investment in time, in energy, in tuition, quality of life. So these are all variables that you want to consider. How the time you put in, the expense, all of those variables. Next slide, please. Okay, so I want to talk a moment about our master's program. So there are different concentrations. Actually, I'm going to talk in general about master's level. So areas of focus, you can focus generally on counseling. You can focus on marriage and family therapy. You can focus on social work or psychiatric nursing. And each of these are a little bit different. In terms of completing, most of these degrees require 2 years full-time or 3 years part-time. And the scope of practice is varied. You could do counseling and psychotherapy, and you could work at an agency or a hospital or independently, where you can bill insurance. You can do certain assessment, consultation, and you can also teach at an associate's level, a bachelor's level, or a master's level. What I do want to point out in terms of some distinctions, in order to do a more comprehensive assessment, like psychodiagnostic, where you're looking at intellectual functioning, where you're doing neuropsychology, you'll need a doctoral degree. And also, if you want to teach at a doctoral level, you'll also need a doctoral degree. Next slide, please. Okay, so a lot of people have curiosities or are unsure, what's the difference between a counseling degree? So if I'm going to pursue an LMHC to become a licensed mental health counselor versus a social work degree. And so broadly, there's a considerable amount of overlap. And each, you'll want to look at the specific program and what their focus is. But if we're going to make some broad generalizations, the counseling degree focuses more on counseling and the direct counseling and clinical interventions, where a degree in social work, you get a little bit more case management, policy, working with certain agencies, governmental agencies, all of those kind of things. Sometimes a bit more public health. We certainly do integrate public health and social determinants in our counseling program, as well as advocacy and case management. Next slide, please. Okay. So as I mentioned, to become a master's level counselor, there's certain requirements, and we often talk about the 3 E's: education, experience, and taking an exam. So the education, you have to fulfill certain coursework. You have to take a certain amount of credits and courses. You have to have experience, so you have to be in the field and accrue certain hours. So people do field placements, and we do a practicum. So the students are in the field the first year, and an internship in the second year, and you have to pass an exam. So as I mentioned, in Massachusetts, after achieving all of these, people get a licensed mental health counselor. They become a licensed mental health counselor, and in other states, it's often referred to a licensed professional counselor or a licensed clinical professional counselor. Next slide, please. Okay. So just quickly, in our clinical mental health counseling program, we have certain areas of emphasis, that these are concentrations. So for all of our students that are in the clinical mental health counseling, there are certain core requirements that is across the board. But if people are really interested in a subspecialty, you have that opportunity. So this is a 3-course sequence where you learn more about that area of emphasis. And these include forensic and correctional counseling, substance use and addictions, couples and family counseling, and health and behavioral medicine. So in addition to this 3-course sequence, students will have an opportunity to be in their second year field placement with this specific population and in these specific settings. The other thing that my colleague, Dr. Dingman, will talk about a little bit later is we have college-wide concentrations, and these are wonderful opportunities to delve deeper into global mental health, into our Latino mental health. We have an African Caribbean mental health, and then our military and veteran psychology program. Next slide, please. Okay, so the master's program, it's 60 credits, and the first year is weighted a little bit more to coursework, and students are in the field for 2 days, so approximately 16 hours. And then in the second year, it's weighted a little bit more to the field work. So students are, the coursework decreases slightly, and then students are in the field for their internship 3 days a week. So roughly 22 hours a week during their second year. Next slide, please. Okay, I just want to talk briefly. We have this wonderful initiative. We feel really strongly about training students to work with underserved populations. And because of this, we've partnered with several behavioral health centers and substance abuse agencies and psychiatric hospitals. So folks that come in will receive a scholarship, and often these are students that you may be working in one of these particular sites. And if we don't have a current collaboration with the site that you're working on, inquire about it. We can't guarantee it, but it might be something that we might be able to establish. So students have the opportunity to continue to work at that site, to count that as what we call as job as placement, where we'll think about your training needs, we'll tweak it a little bit. So what you're doing, you'll be doing new things and getting new experiences. So you'll complete the coursework over 3 years. You'll do the work as placement, and you'll get an additional scholarship. So we're really proud to be offering that. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to open this up for just general questions, and then we'll continue with the presentation. So if I could kindly ask Beth if you can share some of the questions as they're coming in, that would be wonderful.
Beth, are you there?
Okay, in the interest of time, we will circle back to this. And I'm going to forward the next slide to my colleague, Dr. Bob Dingman.
Thank you, Ali. So I am going to be talking about a number of our programs that complement everything that Dr. Cherkasky has just talked to you about. One of our programs that we're very excited about and very proud of is our doctorate in leadership psychology. So what does this mean, leadership psychology? This is a field that people might be interested in who are anywhere from early career to mid-career. These are people who are looking to lead organizations, to be involved in business or industry, or perhaps even higher education in leadership roles. There's an entire psychological literature and research base around what does it mean to be an effective leader. And many people who are already in leadership positions are quite drawn to this. This is simply a comprehensive program that will result in what we call a terminal degree. Here on this slide, you have some information about the general requirements of the program. A doctoral study is intense, so this is going to be at least 4 years full-time or 5 or 6 years part-time. As you see here, there are very significant internship and practica requirements, a pedagogical style. So this is largely a online format. We have people from all over the country, and in some instances from other countries as well, that are able to access this doctoral program. There is some residential components to it, which usually involve several 4-day in-week residencies here at the campus in Newton. And here you see what the requirements are as well. This requires a master's degree and certain prior coursework or relevant experience. Next slide, please. We also have a master's degree in organizational psychologist. This is a degree program, I believe, that is of interest to people who want to enter into more of a role as a consultant to business. So this could be people who are interested in helping to go into organizations that are struggling, to do you might say, an organizational assessment or evaluation, to work with leaders in those organizations to actually implement interventions, either to correct problem situations, oftentimes at the level of human relationships and personnel difficulties. This could also be a degree that could lead you to consult with organizations about how to further improve their performance, to further improve their bottom line, you might say. But again, this is an entire area of psychology that has been around for a very long time. that is specifically devoted to understanding the psychology of systems and organizations. And here on this slide as well, you see the same information. As a master's degree program, as you can see, this is of a much briefer course of study, and the internship and practica requirements are also less than the doctoral program. Again, in terms of how this coursework is delivered, much of it is blended or online. And here the requirements you see are simply to have a completed baccalaureate degree and interest in the field. Next slide, please. A certificate in executive coaching. Coaching is actually a fascinating career area. So this is, I would say, a cousin to clinical work. Executive coaching is really about, again, consulting with organizations to really develop the administrative executive staff, but it is not limited to that. In my career as a psychologist, as I started to move into executive roles or administrative roles, I actually consulted for a while with an executive coach. I found it to be quite helpful. This, in some ways, you might say, is certainly rooted in organizational psychology, but you might see it as a bit akin to what even sports psychologists might do. These are people that actively coach on how to improve performance at the executive level. And here again, you see what the requirements are. 8 months, it's a 1-year program. We do help people find practicum experiences in this area. Again, it's blended. All of the coursework in our org psych program are blended. And again, the requirement is only a baccalaureate degree. Next slide, please. School psychology. So the scope of practice here, school psychologists work in schools. They do a broad range of counseling, consultation, assessment, typically academic assessment, which could include some cognitive assessment, some personality assessment, but in particular, school psychologists really work to support school administration and teachers to find academic and behavioral interventions to allow students to be able to access the curriculum in the best way possible. So this is a program, CAGS stands for Certificate of Advanced Graduate Study. So this is a serious commitment of time which leads to licensure as a school psychologist and independent licensure as an educational psychologist. Next slide, please. Applied behavior analysis. Applied behavior analysis is rooted in decades and decades of behavioral research, or sometimes what we refer to as learning theory. It has had an enormous renaissance over the past 20 or 25 years, during which time, in particular, rates of diagnosis for autism and developmental disabilities has really expanded exponentially. In this program, you're going to learn at a very precise level all about how behavioral analysis is conducted, both at the level of assessment and intervention. And you see here the populations that this is applicable to, the settings, many school settings. I've actually consulted with schools that have ABA specialists right on their staff, clinics, hospitals, private practices, communities, homes, residential treatment centers. In particular, around Massachusetts, we have many fine private schools for children and young adults who are diagnosed with an autistic spectrum disorder. There's lots of employment and lots of need at that level, as well as in home-based family therapy. And here you see what's a range of the activities are, which I've already discussed. Next slide, please. So I'm about to speak about our clinical PsyD program. So a PsyD stands for a doctorate of psychology, and I'd like to distinguish this a bit from a PhD, or what historically has been called a doctorate of philosophy. in the history of psychology. There's a long story about that, but let me pass over that and just give you I think the general consensus about the difference. If you are interested primarily in a career in which you are applying scientific research in the field of psychology, to be a helping professional with people who have either behavioral or emotional disorders, then a PsyD is something to really consider. The emphasis in a PsyD program, and certainly at William James College this is true, is on the development of clinical skills that are going to lead you to a career as a practicing clinical psychologist. What this means is careers in assessment, evaluation, and intervention in a wide range of clinical settings. If you are interested in a career more as an academic psychologist, either in a large research institution where you're going to be conducting your own research, if those are your interest areas, then a PhD is likely to probably fit your interest better. Now, that said, in each of these programs, you get some of both of these domains. So certainly in our clinical PsyD program, we have an emphasis, in fact, a strengthening emphasis on competencies in research. You certainly have to do a doctoral level research project before you complete your degree, but the emphasis is significantly less than in a PhD program. Likewise, in PhD programs, which are often housed in large research universities, you're going to be conducting an extensive amount of research, helping professors with their research projects. You will still get some clinical training. It will still be clinical orientation, but the emphasis is different. And again, all of this depends upon what your interests and career goals are. Next slide, please. So our degree in clinical psychology at the doctoral level, it's important to know that this is a 5-year program, and there's several components to it. Obviously, there's an enormous amount of coursework. The coursework will occupy your first 4 years, although the amount of coursework you have in the 3rd and 4th year diminishes quite dramatically. You will have a field placement, either a practicum or an internship at every year of your training. This corresponds to one of our core values at William James College, to experiential education. In many doctoral level programs, both for PsyD and PhD students, the first year, sometimes even more than a year, there is no field placement. At William James College, in the very first week that you arrive on campus, you will be in a field placement, and you will do so every one of those 5 years in our doctoral program. Research, as I mentioned, as I noted, we take seriously developing not necessarily the same depth of research skill and competence, but all of our doctoral students are trained to be competent consumers of research and to have a good working familiarity with how research is conducted. An APA internship. So APA stands for the American Psychological Association. Our doctoral program now requires all of our students to complete an APA accredited internship. This is the gold standard of training in clinical psychology around the country, all over North America, in fact. What I want to emphasize here is that at all levels of field placement, both at the practicum level and also the internship level, William James College, in my belief, does a stellar job in providing support for students. We have 4 or 5 full-time licensed psychologists who do nothing but manage the 350 or so collaborations that we have in the Boston region. One of those psychologists does nothing except assist students in applying for AP internships, shepherding them through that process, troubleshooting any issues that come up while they are on internship. So there's just an enormous amount of support. After your 5 years as a student, there's also typically a year of postdoctoral training. Many of our students do their postdoctoral training, again, at APA accredited postdoctoral sites. And then the last step in becoming a licensed clinical psychologist is taking a national licensure exam. A couple points I want to make here. With respect to AP internship, if you are evaluating schools and are interested in doctoral programs, it's important to take a look at what the APA internship match rates are for those schools. That information is readily available on our website and should be available on the websites of other schools that you're interested in. In the past 2 years, we've had nearly a 100% match rate, which is, that's pretty crazy. I've never heard of schools having a match rate of that length or of that strength. I think that's largely due to all the help we give students in preparation. Next slide, please. So as my colleague Ali mentioned, we have numerous concentrations. Some of these are specific and particular to the PsyD program in clinical psychology. Others are school-wide. We have developed, as you can see here, a number of concentrations within the department. The Children and Families of Adversity and Resilience, I'm one of the core faculty on this concentration. This is an extensive course of study that prepares you to work with children and families, but in particular with families that we might describe as multi-stressed or among the most vulnerable families, most vulnerable children. This is typically the kinds of extremely compromised families that might wind up with children being in substitute care. There might be protective services involved. So these are families that are enormously complex and have complex treatment needs. Forensic psychology is largely about working within the criminal justice system. If you're interested in working for courts, perhaps as an evaluator, working in prison systems, that's the world of forensic psychology. Geropsychology, as its name connotes, is related to the study and care of people in our older population. It's a great time to think about geropsychology. The percentage of our national population that will be in that age group is only going to expand over the next generation. Health psychology, which is a specialty of Dr. Cherkasky, as she mentioned, is really about preparing for a career working side by side with medical professionals on the you might say the psychological and behavioral components that oftentimes accompany serious medical conditions. Neuropsychology, if you are really interested in the brain and in evaluation of brain injuries and really understanding behavior and cognition at that very precise level, then neuropsychology might indeed be a subject area of concentration for you. And then as noted, we have these school-wide concentrations, and what this means is that students from anywhere in the college can participate in various aspects of these programs. So I'm quite familiar with the military and veteran psychology program, for instance. Our students in both our mental health counseling and clinical programs have full access to this. Certainly all of our coursework is available as well to students throughout the building. Latino mental health, African and Caribbean mental health, our global mental health are really a representative, again, of the deep and abiding values and I think the consistent vision of our president, Dr. Covino, for positioning our school as a leader both regionally and nationally in drawing attention to the incredible need we have to open the field of psychology to persons from minority groups or marginalized groups that have not had access to careers in mental health due to all kinds of disadvantages. So these school-wide concentrations are very much a part of that effort. At the doctoral level, it's just important to note if you partake in these concentrations, there is doctoral level research that you'll need to complete in that area as part of your degree program. Next slide, please. So other considerations. So I'm going to speak primarily about the doctoral level option. It's very, very important to understand what your career goals are. I would certainly say if you are interested in pursuing doctoral studies, it's very important to know that it's really quite an enormous commitment. I really recommend to people that to only really seriously consider taking on doctoral study if you feel that you're really, really ready and are willing to devote 4 or 5 years of your life to that pursuit. What I can tell you is that for most of our students, and I know many William James College students who've been in the field for a number of years, the rewards of higher education at both the master's and doctoral level are enormous in terms of not just your salary and the quality of life, but also just in terms of the respect and the kind of credibility and the kind of influence that you can have. At the college, we have a whole team of people that are available and ready to help you with financial aid applications and loans. Graduate school does require a financial investment, and it's really important to see that as an investment because that investment for the vast majority of our students it really pays off. There's also enormous job growth. We know that we are very soon going to be experiencing a shortage at the doctoral level of clinical psychologists as a large cohort prepares for retirement. There is an unending need for mental health professionals at all levels. Here in the Boston area, sometimes people go months and months and months without being able to actually find a mental health provider. Next slide, please. So, is this slide for me? I can't remember.
Bob, that is a slide for you, and you
Okay.
can just address it quickly.
Okay. So regardless of your degree, education is a lifelong learning process. So this is a very true statement. I'm sure both Ali and I, as licensed professionals, can tell you that it's a never-ending process to stay current as a professional in this field. It's one of the reasons that we both teach and mentor students. It keeps us fresh. But regardless of which of these areas you might be interested in, know that a graduate program, and including getting the degree and including getting the licensure, that is not the end, that's the beginning. And whether you wind up in a clinical specialty, consulting, or working in research or an academic setting, that education and sometimes re-education is an ongoing process. Next slide, please. I believe I'm addressing.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I believe I'm addressing this one too. So what are we looking for in candidates? Obviously, evidence of academic and interpersonal readiness for higher education and graduate study, solid academics, where we'd like to know that people are able to write competently. Self-awareness. So psychology is a field in which technical knowledge alone is not sufficient. We need to have people in our field who have a highly developed capacity for what we call social emotional intelligence, respect for others. We're looking for people not necessarily with the highest GPAs or the highest GRE scores. We're looking for people whom we judge are going to develop into competent, sensitive, culturally humble and respectful professionals who have the capacity to work in a sensitive way with people of all backgrounds. realistic awareness of the commitments required for academic and career success. That goes back to the point I was emphasizing. This is really an important step. It's an exciting time to be a graduate student, but it really requires that people are ready and are in a place in their lives where they can really focus on getting the job done of all of these requirements. Next slide, please. Allie, was that you who wanted to comment?
Hi, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was just going to comment a couple slides ago and just add that, one thing about these programs and degrees and areas of specialty is that as a professional, it's this beautiful tapestry of a career, and that I was just thinking about your career and my career, how things morph and change and become more elaborate, like this beautiful tapestry from teaching to clinical to directing programs to consulting. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you very much. So what can you do now? If you are still completing your undergraduate work, obviously you'll want to complete your coursework. You don't need to complete your coursework before you apply, but you will need to have graduated. Another thing you could do is you can visit our website. You might identify faculty that share your interest. Our faculty are always interested and willing to speak with prospective students. At some points, I'm doing that at least on a weekly basis. Also important, and we do look for this when we evaluate applications, is we look for evidence of people's not just having academic skills, but also stepping up and getting involved, either in volunteer work, research, certainly your internship experiences. We want applicants who have been out in the field enough to know that they really like the kind of settings that a career in counseling or clinical psychology or leadership psychology is really going to give them. Next slide, please.
Hi. You
go
know
ahead.
what? Hi, I'm sorry, everyone. I was bumped out before, and now I'm back in. This is Beth. Joe, I think we're going to skip the audience polls now because we're really moving along, and we want to address your piece. So let's go ahead and go into your part of the program. We have a few questions. I've been trying to address them, if I can, by typing questions in. Folks, if we don't get to your questions, we certainly will. When we will email them and contact you privately with the questions, just because this has been such an informative webinar today. So I'm going to move it right through to Joe so you can move forward. But I do want to mention which of the programs are APA accredited, and I would like Bob to address that because that's an important question, and then Allie in terms of our other accreditation, right quickly if you can address that question.
I'll start with the, did you want me to do the accreditation piece?
Yes, please, Bob.
Yes,
That'd be
sure, go ahead.
So our clinical psychology program is fully accredited by the American Psychological Association. Any program that you're interested in applying to, that's really the gold standard. And we have had that accreditation for many, many years. Our school psychology program has also been accredited. And I believe that's, unless I'm mistaken, I think that's the extent of our accreditation through the American Psychological Association.
Okay, Allie, do you want to talk about accreditation through the counseling and other programs?
Yeah, sure. So we are what's called KCREP equivalent. And I was actually asked by the department chair to refer all questions regarding accreditation to her, and she can address those.
Joe, would you like to talk about our accreditation through the New England, through NETCHI?
Yes. So NETCHI is the regional accrediting body that accredits all undergraduate and graduate programs throughout the New England area. So we have been continuously accredited by NETCHI for as long as the school has been in operation. And for those of you who don't recognize the term NETCHI, the former acronym was New England Association of Schools and Colleges. They are now known as NETCHI. And so we are fully accredited by that regional accrediting body, which is also recognized for federal student aid purposes by the U.S. Department of Education.
Right. Yeah, I just think these are very important questions and great questions around accreditation. So wanted to address that. And then Joe, please move on to your slides. Sorry, Joe and I can stay a little bit after if people want to do so. But we understand if you can't, we will then send questions to folks individually. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. So yes, in the interest of time and possibly addressing a few more questions before we end, I'll just say a few quick words about the application process. So for those of you who are considering a possible application for admission to William James College, I'm pleased to tell you that for all of our programs, we are currently accepting applications for spring 2021 and fall 2021 enrollment. And our application due dates will vary by program. So I know many of you in the audience today are interested in a number of programs. Quite a few of you are interested in clinical mental health counseling and clinical psychology. So we do have some due dates coming up in late November, early December for those programs. So you'll find those due dates on our website. And when you're ready to start your application for admission, you can do that right from our website. You can open up your application account and you can then work on the application at your own speed. You don't need to finish it all in one sitting. So open your application account and you'll have a PIN and password. You can use that PIN and password as many times as you need until you're ready to have that application submitted. So also want to say a few quick words about financial aid. So I'm pleased to tell you that almost all of our academic programs offer a number of merit scholarship opportunities. And these forms of aid typically have a total value of about 10 to 15% of the total tuition and fees for our program. The good news about our merit award screening process is that every candidate who is invited to interview for admission is automatically considered for these merit awards. So there's no separate application or essay that you need to prepare. So if you are the recipient of one of our merit scholarships, we'll notify you at the same time that you receive your offer to enroll. And then we have some other scholarship opportunities, such as the Serving the Mental Health Needs of the Underserved Scholarship. These scholarships do have a separate application, a brief essay that we ask you to write. These applications are these scholarship opportunities rather are a bit more competitive. And so they actually have a higher dollar value than the merit scholarship. For example, the Serving the Mental Health Needs of the Underserved Scholarship, that scholarship has a value of 2/3 of the tuition and fees that are charged by the program. So in addition to scholarships, we have a number of really interesting on-campus student employment opportunities as well. So for example, in the clinical PsyD program, we typically hire about 25 teaching assistants in that program. The TA position is one that pays a small stipend for each semester of employment. And typically the time commitment for these employment opportunities is very modest. It's no more than about maybe 6 to 10 or maybe 12 hours a week. And then, of course, there's access to the federal student loan program. And just want to make one important point about federal student loans. For those of you who intend to finance all or a portion of your studies using federal student loans after student employment and scholarships, you can also use this form of financing to help pay for many out-of-pocket expenses that are related to graduate school enrollment. Expenses such as housing and transportation and meals and health insurance, the purchase of technology, textbooks. Those are all expenses that can be financed using federal student aid programs. Okay, so let's circle back and let's cover some questions.
Okay, so Joe, one question that came up with a couple folks is, can you apply to a counseling and the clinical PsyD program at the same time, or a variety of programs at the same time?
Yes, the answer is yes. In fact, many applicants choose to apply both to the clinical psychology doctoral program and the clinical mental health counseling master's program. And, one of the reasons I think that applicants do it this way is because the clinical PsyD program is the most competitive program here that we offer. It is a program that does tend to reach its capacity, and many applicants would like to have a backup plan, and so they will apply to both the doctoral and the master's program at the same time. And in the event that an applicant is not offered admission to the doctoral program, we're happy to consider them for admission to the master's program.
And Joe, there was a question about applying in the counseling program, but I'm sure this applies same for clinical PsyD. Do you have to apply for the concentrations individually?
You do not.
Okay, I'm just going to answer.
Ellie,
Okay,
do you want to speak to that?
Sure thing. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say that exact same thing. You definitely do not, and it's usually by the spring semester that you have to make that decision because of the sequence of the courses.
Okay, and
I also just want to add before I forget, you can do the general program. You don't need to be in a concentration. And the only difference there is that you have more opportunities to take electives.
okay, that's great. Thank you. And Bob, in terms of the doctoral program, is there a requirement to apply to the concentrations ahead of time, or how does that work?
Absolutely not. With the exception of the CFAR program, the Children and Families of Adversity and Resilience, that is a comprehensive program. So we do like students to identify when they apply that they're interested in that program. The other thing to note is for the other concentrations, it's usually in the second year of the doctoral program that they make a kind of declaration. Each one of those concentrations is usually probably 4 or 5 additional classes. The credits for those courses come out of the pool of available elective credits that students have. Also, just to note, over half of our students, or about half, don't have any concentration, and that's absolutely fine.
Okay. Joe, just 2 questions because these are coming up around school psychology, and we love to hear from students interested in school psychology. The student's interested, and she wants to know how important is an undergraduate GPA when it comes to getting accepted for school psychology?
Yes,
then,
sure. There are actually several measurements of academic readiness that we look at. GPA is certainly one of them. We're also looking at the strength of the applicant's references. So for the candidate that is posing this question, if you're someone who is just wrapping up your undergraduate degree, most likely you'll be offering some academic references, professors or academic advisors, or maybe internship or practicum supervisors from your bachelor's program. So these individuals will also speak to your overall academic readiness for graduate study. So, my point is that, we have a fairly holistic, approach to looking at academic readiness for, graduate study. So GPA is certainly one important measurement, but it's not the only one. And I would also point out that there are, of course, many factors that influence an individual's grade point average record in their bachelor's program. So, for example, if they were a first-generation student, or if English was not their primary or first language, maybe they were an individual who self-financed their bachelor's degree program. These are all factors that can influence a GPA. So we always encourage candidates to look at their GPA from the standpoint of what were some of the circumstances that may have influenced the outcome of that, and use your application essay to discuss some of those factors which perhaps may not have allowed you to reach your full academic potential.
And that's true for all of our programs in terms of just if you're wanting to indicate your GPA, and not just for school psychology too. And another student for school psychology asked about, and this applies again to all our programs, are there current students or alum that you can speak to? And we do have a school ambassador program. If you go to our website, under each program, you'll see school, or under admissions, you'll see school ambassador, speak to a school ambassador. If you click on that, you'll see a list of names, and you can just email them directly. So that's always a wonderful thing to be able to do. And we're getting on to time. I'm sorry, you have so many great questions, folks. I wish we could continue to go on. I wonder just quickly if Bob or Allie, if you could talk about how has the COVID-19 pandemic changed the programs and the ways that they are being offered. If we could quickly address that, I think that would be great.
Sure, Allie, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So what our department has done is we've gone to remote, but remote is a little bit different than an online program. So most of our teaching is what we call a combination of synchronous and asynchronous teaching. So synchronous being it's in real time with you via Zoom. And then sometimes we have asynchronous components where students will view a recorded lecture, and then we'll have a chance to join in, delve in, and talk about it. The one quick thing I wanted to say that I was both concerned about and surprised by. I was concerned about whether or not we'd be able to connect with the students, and what's been really lovely is I've been surprised by the level of connection that's been able to take place. Thank you.
Yeah, all I would add is that in the doctoral program in clinical psychology, it's very much as Allie just described. I'm teaching all of my classes through Zoom. I'm conducting meetings on a regular basis with my research supervisees and with my academic advisees. So business is going on. None of us are thrilled about operating in 2 dimensions rather than 3, but we're doing the best we can with it. And as Allie said, we have synchronous and asynchronous parts to it. So for now, I think we've made a great transition, and the students seem to be learning, and we're moving forward in all respects. The one other thing I would add is that our students are still in their field placements. That has not changed. Some of our students are actually going into their field sites with the appropriate precautions, but many of them are fully participating in their field placements remotely from home during this period of time.
And the other thing I would add, Bob and Allie, you can please jump in, is I know there's been regular surveys to students at all levels to see how sort of the teaching and pedagogy is going, and the satisfaction rates have been very, very high, but also that there's almost, I think, Bob, you can talk about this, and Allie, almost like weekly meetings and connections with the faculty around how to continue to engage students, the online learning process, utilizing some more kind of engaging techniques like I think flipped classroom I've heard, and
Yes.
things like that.
Yeah, and I also just want to add, we also have opportunities to come to school and to connect with faculty. We have different discussions that are happening. And the other thing that I've also been really pleasantly surprised is that students are making connections with other students and talking about that. So feeling that, an emotional connection both to us and to each other.
And the only thing I would add to that is that on a school-wide basis, I'm quite sure it's happening every single week. There are opportunities for students, faculty, and staff to come together through Zoom for community engagement and community building activities.
Yes, okay. Well, I think, this has been great, but we're 12 minutes over. So thank you everyone for continuing on the discussion. We will continue to address questions, but I know one question was, is there someone I can talk to around my own sort of professional goals and what I'd like to do and where I'm at now? And you certainly can. We have an admissions team. Joe is one of them, Elizabeth, Mario, who will be happy to talk to you from the get-go, from the initially, and that you can go to info@williamjames.edu. We also have to really engage, and they'll help you as well. And Dr. Dingman and Dr. Cherkasky, their emails are here. If you have a specific question around their departments, we're happy to help you in any way. So definitely reach out to us so we can talk about your individual career goals and kind of what makes sense for you. We do this all the time. I'm talking with inquiries with individuals all the time. So we're really happy to do that. We have other webinars. I know there were several questions about organizational leadership and psychology. We do have webinars coming up. One is tomorrow, actually, and then in November. So if you check on our website under admissions, you'll see a whole list of webinars, and they're really there to be able for you to pick and choose. Anything else that Allie or Bob you'd like to end with today?
Yeah, I just want, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say that I really enjoyed spending the time today, and in particular, Allie, I felt like I learned some new things about what's happening in the mental health counseling. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I just want to reiterate what my colleagues have said. This is really the beginning of a dialogue. So we're here for you. So please do feel free to reach out, and I look forward to speaking with you further.
Thank you both. Joe, you didn't have much time to talk today. I'm sorry.
That's okay, no worries. Yes, for the attendee in the audience that is looking to have more of a discovery conversation to help sort out which of our academic programs would be the best fit for his or her career interests, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. I have those conversations all the time. And on the handout, my email is there. So we'd love to hear from you. Email me and let's set up a date and time to talk.
Thank you all very much for attending today. It was great to have you on, and thanks so much to our presenters for providing the time and their expertise and their energy today. And we look forward to continuing to engage with you all. And again, please reach out. Let us know what we can help you with. We want this to be a resource for you, no matter what you decide to choose. And ultimately, we want our students that come to us to be a good fit. So thank you for doing your research today, for starting it or continuing it, and we hope that we can continue to help you move forward as you're looking at these amazing jobs in both psychology and behavioral health, organizational leadership psychology, school psychology. So thank you again all, and have a great day.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye now.